Good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you're at on the flat Earth. This is your Hawkeye. Wow, September 7th, still Pacific Standard Time. I thought I'd jump on quickly. I mentioned I'd probably be here. I know I'm a few minutes late. Let's check this out. How do I keep missing this? Just getting the audio. There we go. Perfect. All right. Screen share ish. Thursday. Oh, shaving cream, entire screen. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Audio good here. Fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks for being here. I know everybody's just staring and waiting for homeboy to show up. Okay, today I have, well, apart from some notes, I'm just going to riff a little off. I have a couple tabs open, but I don't have the formula down. But I did want to, again, riff off something that was brought up today. The burning monk. Okay, now I got to pause, take my time. Something I didn't call up. Let's see. Burning monk. And okay, is that specific enough? Thank you. So we have let's just examine this for a moment. This is just to add to a little addition to something that that Johnny had covered earlier today. However you want to pronounce his name, Thich Quang Dirk. Oh boy. And then, of course, supposed birth name. And then the infamous 11 June 1963. So we're into the swing of Vatican II, Second Vatican Council. Remember, here's our dates. Nope. Let's just highlight. So our dates for Vatican II or the Second Vatican Council, 11 October 1962 to 8 December 1965. So within, we have the assassination of a sitting president, November 22nd, 1963. That very same day, remember, C.S. Lewis breathed his last. However he died, whether it was the accident pillow, natural, and I believe it was Aldous Huxley. I'm sure there are other names, but those of prominence come to mind. That's what I've got for that particular date, and it obviously takes place within the Second Vatican Council. Significant enough for me. Okay, so we have this event. Oh my goodness! And while I'm thinking of it, hey Benjamin, stupid, yeah, flag of the Jesu. Okay. Nope, that's not what I want. I want this. So here we have our event, 11 June 63. Now we're gonna examine. So in a country where surveys of the religious composition at the time estimated the Buddhist majority to be between 70 and 90%, President Dean was a member of the Catholic minority and pursued discriminatory policies favoring Catholics for public service. Okay, if this can be read and examined at your leisure, I did want to just touch upon, and again, I'll add links to, okay, first of all, will it show the photograph? Okay. And I think in part the captain, yeah. So Johnny's thumbnail for today, Vietnam's Building 7. You'll have to listen to that for full context. So we have our, okay, now journalist Malcolm Browne photographed this event. I don't know it off at the moment how many rolls of what kind of film. I think I'd seen a picture of him with an Ilford badge. So I think at the time, press type photography, the standard was like for black. Remember, in black and white, there was color, but for black and white, of course, meant no extra expense for printing, because printing at the time was mostly rare. If I don't know when color actually. Screw all this. I don't know when color printing actually began, but I do know that newspapers and so on, media printing, it was black and white was the standard. And then for professional photographers, you had either Ilford or Kodak. And let's say, for example, Ilford was HP5, and the comparable film was Kodak, the Tri-X. And both obviously at approximately 400 for ASA or ISO, so 400 speed film, very popular. So either you were at Ilford, or could you combine the two, or did a guy have multiple depending on the certain look that these certain films gave? Sure, but we're going back to 62 Malcolm Browne. Okay, now. The photographer, his page. Okay, first let's just examine his Vadi PD page. So Malcolm Wilde Browne, who photographed, is responsible for this series of photographs of the burning monk, April 17, 1931 to August 27th, 2012, with an American photojournalist and photographer, best known for his award-winning photograph of the self-immolation of Buddhist monk. And of course, there's the name. In 1963, Browne was born and raised in New York City. His mother was a Quaker. Glad they added that. And with fervently anti-war opinions, I'm sure she did have those, while his father was an architect who was also a Roman Catholic. I don't have the ability like many to roll my R's, so have a little laugh, throw some tomatoes. Browne attended Friends Seminary, a Quaker school in Manhattan, from kindergarten through 12th grade. He later attended Swarthmore in Pennsylvania and studied chemistry. Wow. Okay, now. Oh, and one point I wanted to bring up here. So back to this name, Browne. Do we know of another famous or infamous Browne character? Father, I believe. Remember our Francis Patrick Mary Browne, Society of Jesus. Look at that. Who died? Who died just 3 years prior. But here's our professional photographer who attended the Titanic, photographed every. There's a fascinating. It's been a while, so I won't get into it. But his series of photographs, I'm sure that it's not a complete series. But what did he photograph, or who did he photograph? Every prominent figure that went down with the Titanic in 1912, April 15. of course, there's multiple events that took place on April 14th/15. We think of Abraham Lincoln. We think of the so-called Boston bombing. We think of the burning of the Notre Dame spire. We think of, oh my goodness, I'm missing. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Okay, let's examine just something here. So the burning monk, the story behind the shocking and iconic image of Thich Quang Duc immolating himself on a Saigon street in 1963. And of course, this is just, I'll put this link if you wish to just look into this. This was published 2020. And there's brilliant points. I found this. Looked to me as a brilliant summary. But again, just adding to what Johnny had mentioned today, and then also just pointing out Malcolm Browne, Roman Catholic, or at least his father had a father, the head of the house. Malcolm Browne, 30 years old when he arrived in Saigon on 7 November 1961. When I see 7 November, I think of Steve McQueen. I think of Billy Graham, AP's first permanent correspondent there. So the Associated Press's first permanent correspondent there. From the start, Browne was filling the kind of big stories that would win him the Pulitzer Prize for reporting in 1964. Okay, and then, but he is primarily remembered for a photograph taken June 11th, 1963, depicting the dignified yet horrific death by fiery suicide, the Buddhist monk. And then there's the name Thick. So whatever my pronouncement. So I feel like as I'm reading it, it's either I'm mocking, it's mockery coming out of my mouth, or it's mockery for us. Because as we know, burning alive, calling card of the Inquisition, Thich Quang Duc, World Press Photo, 1963. Here's our man. I was going to call him Francis Browne, Malcolm Browne. And then, of course, here's fast information. So what was known beforehand on 10 June 1963, U.S. correspondents were informed that something, quote unquote, something important would happen the following morning on the road outside the Cambodian embassy in Saigon. Most of the reporters disregarded the message, since the Buddhist crisis had at that point been going on for more than a month. And the next day, only a few journalists turned up, including David, I don't recognize that name, that's okay, the New York Times, and Malcolm Browne. Around 350 monks and nuns marched in two phalanxes, preceded by an Austin Westminster sedan carrying banners printed in both English, Anglais, and Vietnamese. They denounced the Diem government, so on and so forth. Okay. Skipping down. A colleague emptied the contents of the petrol container. So, as we'll see an image coming up, colleagues emptied the gasoline, the petrol container over the monk's head. Quang Duc rotated a string of wooden prayer beads and recited the words, homage to, well, you can read it there, before striking a match and dropping it onto himself. Flames consumed his robes and flesh, and black oily smoke emanated from his burning body. So his last words, Duc's last words before self-immolation, were documented in a letter he had left. Before closing my eyes and moving towards the vision of the Buddha, I respectfully plead to President Ngo Dinh, and of course, Johnny, also back to Viet Dinh, the Patriot Act, the inversely named Patriot Act, a direct result of September 11th, 2001. Viet Dinh, a Jesuit-trained, at the time practicing professor at Jesuit Georgetown University, and constructed, or was the source of the so-called, and again, inversely named Patriot Act that was within days enacted post 9/11. Okay, so Similar name here, just like Browne and Francis Browne. I wonder if, again, back to the idea, the central event, the calling card of the Inquisition, burning and burning alive, to take the mind of compassion passion towards the people of the nation. I call the venerables, reverends, members of the Sangha and the lay Buddhists to organize in solidarity to make sacrifices to protect Buddhism. Okay, and now, okay, I'm feeling a little let down here. I was expecting, okay, yes, here we go. Succession of photographs taken by Browne. Remember, Malcolm Browne, not Francis, S.J. So the leading up to, so all pictures taken June 11th, 63. Buddhist leaders warned Browne that a major protest would take place in Saigon. Monks and nuns recited funeral chants. Again, just wanting to point out whether they're called mala beads, but synonym for rosary, without the either crucifix or cross. The Buddhist protesters walked from the pagoda to the central Saigon. Now that I'm thinking of it, this is just dumbass me thinking, did I get my films right? And then I'm forgetting the timeline. Whatever, it is what it is. If I got something wrong there, I'll discover that shortly. Monks and nuns formed a circle. Rambo in Rambo First Blood Part 2 used Ilford HP5, loading a Nikon F3 prior to his inception into Vietnam. Buddhist monk emerged from the car and sat in the center of the intersection while the younger monk poured gasoline over him. And of course, Malcolm Browne is cited as every bit as bad as I could have expected, said Browne. Again, this fact, and which is something I'm just going to link. This idea of the observer without a camera, without a video, with a video or still images. It's not that this event would have no power, but it certainly leads to a lot of questions. And then, of course, what do we have here? Is homeboy smiling and laughing? Other monks and nuns looked on as Quang Duc burned to death. Fuck you. Like, well, wow. And it was described, yeah, his body, the arms stayed upright like this, and they couldn't. Anyway, and then look at this. After the immolation, monks prevented the fire truck from approaching the scene. So, I haven't. So we're dealing with, obviously, there's the date, June 11th, June 12th. I could potentially connect that. I'm not going to go down that road at the moment. What I did want to point to the tragic tale of the photograph that killed its photographer, Kevin Carter. Kevin Carter. Then we have a Superior General date. Kevin Carter was a South African photojournalist and member of the Bang Bang Club. He was the recipient of the 1994 the Pulitzer Prize for his photograph depicting the 1993 famine in Sudan. He committed suicide at the age of 33. His story is depicted in the book The Bang Bang Club, written by Greg Marinovic and Wow Silva, and published in 2000. So here we have another photographer. I'm more familiar with Kevin Carter than Malcolm Browne. So Kevin Carter, born in Johannesburg, essentially what's John City, Johnstown, Johannism 101, Johannesburg, South Africa, and grew up in a middle-class, whites-only neighborhood. As a child, he occasionally saw police raids to arrest Black people who were illegally living in the area. He said later that he questioned how his parents, a Catholic, liberal family, could be what he described as lackadaisical and about fighting against apartheid. And Kevin, let's see if in his photograph, of course, back to this idea. Okay, obviously it's not coming up as, that's fine. But the vulture with this child, and the vulture's waiting for this emaciated, starving child to die. And then, of course, part of the story, which is, again, this idea that a journalist, a photojournalist, a photographer, is there to be any sort of intervention? Because Carter was questioned about his actions after he snapped his photograph. And of course, part of what his confession, part of his story was he did not intervene. He left. And whether that, supposedly that's what led him to committing suicide at age 33, is what this downward spiral psychologically of what everything that he had seen. And then, of course, this photograph, which won him a very prestigious award. All right, let's we'll leave it at the sort of that. All right, let's see. Here we go. Slow down. I'll slow down. You'll slow down. Hold on. Here we go. What have I missed? Everything. Cardinal sin. Hey, Benjamin. How many people do you think? Hold on. I don't want to miss something. Audio is good. Thank you again for that. I really appreciate that. So I get the Jesu Hawkeye worldview. How many people do you think in percentages are aware of it's the peoples of the world? And what do our scriptures tell us? The whole world will wonder, WONDER, after the beast. The whole world. So that, what does that leave? None of us. And behold, a select few. And what do we actually get? What do we actually get right? Where are we wrong? What are we missing? What are we not seeing? This is in part the frustrating part of it. And then the fact, and as has been discussed many times, that nobody fucking listens. No, there's not even the desire to know, the hunger to know. At the same time, hey, it's like a one by one by one. And in part, all it takes is one. The idea. Think of a great example. And it wasn't just, clearly Luther stood on shoulders of those that came before him. And we don't put Martin Luther on a pedestal, but certainly here's one man who took a stand. So there's the translation portion, but then also at the time with a certain technology, the Gutenberg printing press, mobilized Rome and what would be what's called the Counter-Reformation. The reason for the Jesuit order, the Society of Jesus, as a result of what essentially what one man did, which was translate. Okay, so there was taking a public stand, a very public stand, calling out the papacy. But what did he do? And remember, 1534, I think I don't have an exact year. We don't have an exact date at this time within the year, the Gregorian calendar year. Which books or which testament, the Old or the New first? But in 1534, both Old and New were printed and then essentially given to the public. 1534. And then I propose that's what really got things going with the Cartier, commissioned by Francis I. Part of it, what part of that narrative is actually true? We know that there was a movement to so-called exploration, which we throw the bullshit, or at least I do. But it's how to support my position, which it's difficult, and that may take a long time. It doesn't matter at this point, but I believe April 20th, 1534 is a significant line in the sand, line in concrete, actually, let's say, a very definitive line that, according to Revelation 13, we have this move from the beast out of the sea, moving to empower the beast out of the land. And I believe April 20th, 1534, very significant date, which is the day that Cartier set sail from northern France. And then that later that year, you have the erection of the 30-foot cross, what's now the Gaspé Peninsula. You have in August, history books will tell you as well, on 15 August 1534, Cartier led a special mass on his boat because it was for the Feast of the Assumption. That very day, in France, in Paris, in a particular cathedral, Ignatius and 6 others took a very special oath to the Queen of Heaven. So the very significant day, 15 August 1534. And then later, we have Cartier returned in September. I believe Loyola also met in Paris, where Cartier presented the boys that he had kidnapped and presented them to Francis I, King of France. That Loyola was present as well, and then which led to. I know I'm missing a couple items here. I know that there was a move with Paul III. You know what? While I'm thinking of it, I might as well look it up. Alessandro Farnese, Pope Paul. Line it up right so we get first hit. Okay. So we have okay, and then this transition from we're just gonna no. Okay, thank you. From his predecessor, Clement VII, and I presented this to Johnny too. We have significant dates for the death of Clement VII, opening the door for Paul III, Alessandro Farnese. So, 1534, 13 October. This is a significant date too, as far as that Templar date. Remember, 13 October, Black Friday, 1307. So 1534, again, continuing with our significant dates, we have a shift in the papacy. And then November 3rd, so not even a month later, you have the Acts of Supremacy by Henry VIII. So the splitting, this creation of the Church of England. Okay. And why am I bringing all that up? Because I feel like it. Kevin Carter. Okay, now I'm. Malcolm Albrand. What Francis? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, as we were saying, yeah. Yep. Patrick, just like Jean, translator of, so-called, remember, air quotes, Jean Joseph or John Joseph Mary Amiot, who was the so-called translator for Sun Tzu's 13 articles, aka Art of War. We have Francis Mary Arouet, Around the World. Mary Francis Perry. Nope, I'm getting something wrong here. Crap. High Voltage. High voltage. Can I spell today? Well, it must be getting close to midnight. Francis Mary. Did I say Mary Francis? Whatever. Francis Mary Arrowet. All right. If you haven't seen it, check out the captains. Check out Johnny's. Again, what I'm trying to is it clear enough? I know I'm jumping around a bit, but just adding a photographer, and then of course connecting to a second photographer a little more, bringing it forward to the 90s. Again, having Catholicism in both men's backgrounds, both taking significant photographs, and I don't know enough about this. What was happening in the Sudan? But there's 1993, the famine in Sudan. There's a distinct connection between this event, or what was going on here, and now the famine, though, spread over a period of, where is it? If it tells us, it wasn't just 1993. There was a few years prior and a few years post. I might be really butchering that, but the fact that there's a connection between the World Trade Center bombing in 1993, because there was something. I'm sorry, I can't. The audio. Somehow there was a connection to Sudan, which supposedly hamstrung the United States from offering any type of aid to the Sudan, to what was going on. And it interesting connection, very, of course, using discernment, as Johnny would say, and Tolly's knows. And of course, he's covered many times the 1993 World Trade bombing is not my forte at this time. I know he's spoken about it many times. So 26 February 1993. I think whether there was the joke stem from this event of the idea of in a trio of three, or trio, redundant there, trio of three terrorists. Among a trio of terrorists is what, two are consistently CIA agents, something like that. Of course, I just butchered the punchline, but that's fine. You get the point. Okay. Where are we at? Jesu, yeah, media control. The whole thing could have been staged. No, certainly what's been presented, the lead up, but the fact that others doused him in gasoline and petrol, gasoline, and then he lit the match. Again, remembering the calling card of the Inquisition, we have burning, or burning alive, more specifically, and also beheading. So, of course, it's staged there. Yeah, and that's the point, right? The fact that there's the camera, which turns it into a what it's. I want to use the word magical, but that's not the right word. I don't know what I want to call it right now. And this idea of, again, this was explored well since the foundation of cinema. The Lumiere brothers, Dziga Vertov, I can't remember that's his, not stage name, but a name on top of his real name, just like George Orwell is actually Eric Arthur Blair. And this idea, though, that does the camera provoke? Does the what's this relationship between camera and the world that's happening? And this idea, even again, as I mentioned before, as soon as the photographer, the videographer either snaps a photograph or record, like, there's all the information that's omitted. It's already a manipulation. Certainly it's one's perception, but it's already a manipulation. And and as Saucy points out very clearly how the power of, well, one, the image, but also, or adding that to the power of the moving image, and that what can be taught, that, and that the fact that people would receive the moving images, so whether television, cinema, and so on, consume that rather than read. And it's profound, the power, again, of the, not just the image, but you add the moving image, which is, again, still images played at a certain frame rate, whether it's 20, 18, 24, 24 being the standard frames per second. Television today, crazy. What is it? It's beyond 30, it's beyond 60. I'm sure the rate, I don't even want to start guessing, but it's probably, it's stupid what's being presented to us. And imagine, in amongst all those frames, there's the idea of what's called techniques called frame cutting, but also insertion or inception, where, say, in amidst 24 frames, let's just use 24 for example, one frame, there's which has been used before for subliminal advertising, manipulation, where an image is added, like whether it's the drink, whether it's the cigarette, whether it's food, and the viewer, without knowing, feels some kind of inspiration. Oh, I feel hungry. Oh, I feel thirsty. Oh, I feel like I want. Subtle, again, this idea of, just like back in the garden, the power, the satanic power of suggestion, the power of inception. Inception is real. We've covered this. Let's just look at this and we'll close. Inception. Yeah. Inception. So 2010 film. July 16 release date in Canada. I've remembered another date for this, but I'll leave it at that, because we're not going to go down this rabbit hole. And then, of course, the narrative, Elliot Page. And there's a lot going on there, which I will not discuss at the moment. Anyway, wow. What did I miss? Well, yeah, that's the point, though. This idea, even Richie being a bit player, and he would know it, but knowing that he would play a part in a very long line of, like, a link in a chain. And then there's this idea, though, that, and this is what the beauty, the power, why Frederick Tupper Saucy III's Jesuit Freemasons book, Rulers of Evil, Useful Knowledge About Governing Body, is important. He sets up the narrative that it's that Ricci specifically at that time, so setting up specific wars, fueling certain fires, creating certain friction, and then all leading to the French Revolution, but also what would happen in the United States, or what would become the United States of America, the Declaration of Independence, and so on. That Ricci acted knowing he had the authority, that it's like having the mindset that he couldn't lose. There's something about that. However he endured, like, all the gut-wrenching, is this going to work? Is this going to work? But as Saucy presents it, here you have a man who acted in full confidence, knowing, again, is the white pope or is the black pope the little horn power? That's discussed in Daniel, and then, of course, in Revelation, the emergence of a particular figure. It's certainly fascinating, but again, anyway, which is what leads to, and which is why I presented so diligently, why Rulers of Evil is yes, questionable, but is in a part second to none. It's good, and it's too good. So with discernment, with wisdom, that's how we approach all things. But I believe they're necessary. They're necessary, like art of war is a filter, which is essential for us Just like knowing the Jesuit fourth vow or extreme oath is an essential filter to view all world events. And then rulers of evil being another. And then, Johnny's books. All right, Hawkeye Rising. Yeah, there you go. And we remember the Son of Man, the Son of the Most High, the one that presented himself, the lineage of Abraham, of David, who was nailed to a tree, and his death, burial, and resurrection. Well, that's good. That's just how about his death? The fact that he uttered, what did he utter? It is finished. Something major. Well, as we know, we read the scriptures, we know what was complete. Well, do we even fully understand that? And I agree, Michael Eiser's work, whether, again, ordained Jesuit, certainly Jesuit trained. It wasn't just the fall of man, the redemption, and the fulfillment of the law and the prophets, but there was the redeeming. So the second and third rebellion. So the Genesis 6 narrative, the Watchers, and also the shattering and scattering of the language groups at Babel. A reclaiming of all through Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection. Something quite profound and beautiful and wonderful. And of course, that is our eternal hope. That is our eternal hope. And so how about this? Let's just add this, that Saucy ties. So we think of Buddhism. I'll cover this at some point. The fact that Taoism, Buddhism even being brought to the West through Jesuits, but the connection between Buddha thought, like different people groups, different entities, different names, different figures like Buddha, Thoth, and so on, all connected, actually all point to, all are a derivative of Enoch. Enoch, seventh from Adam. I don't want to start guessing names, but Enoch being the seventh, teaching. What his name? Anyway, and then his narrative being expounded in, yes, the Book of Enoch, or let's say First Enoch. That's another subject matter. We'll leave that for now. Okay, it's just past midnight. Hey, thank you for being here. Torsna Benjamin, whom else? Oh, and I wanted to give a shout out. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I'm missing your name. Yeah, you gave a shout out from France, which I really appreciate. I'll have to dig that up and then address you properly next time. Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate that shout out. That's precious to me. Thank you. Okay, gentlemen. Much love to you all. Bless you. Peace. His peace. Until next time.